What instantly s the vibe at a party? If the hosts are a couple and they get into a fight. For real, I was at couple of friends' place for a chill party once, and the guy started getting angry at his girlfriend for asking him something while we took turns playing Elder Rings. It became increasingly awkward and they moved their argument into the kitchen. Then it turned into a real fight with screaming and dishes thrown on the floor. Eventually, when someone suggested that they calm down and the guy became hysterical, threw everyone out including his girlfriend, and saying it was her fault, the party was ruined. I took pity on her, so I drove her to her place and ended up consoling her until 3 a.m. Turns out they'd be fighting before about cheating one another. They're due to get married at the end of the year, but I'd be surprised their relationship lasts that long. When someone gets extremely wasted and too out of control, starts to pick fights, has drunk fits, will sprawl on the ground, needs 100% supervision, has to be carried around. You just want to chill and enjoy the party, but you can't 'cause you're stuck babysitting them. Had a friend like this? He had anger issues. I tried many times to just be a friend, but the straw that broke the camel's back was when I had to take him home from the bar he just got kicked out of because he was threatening to fight people. I didn't have my car because I was visiting from out of town, and I drove his car to his house. I dragged him out of his car as he is flailing and yelling at me because I refused to come inside and meet his new dog. During the flailing, he punched me in the face. I dropped him on the ground and just left. I walked back to the bar and took an Uber home. He blew up my phone calling me a cunt and a whore. We haven't spoken since, and honestly, it's for the best because I've heard he's just gotten worse. Everyone else is the problem, not him. I was at a staff party with an open bar, and it reached the time when the first clusters of guests were leaving. When they went to get their coats from the closet, they discovered a young new team member who we thought had left hours ago. He had stripped off all his clothes, made a nest of jackets, soiled everything, and passed out. Ed the vibe for sure. I'm not going to claim to understand why he decided to strip naked and sleep on a pile of coats, but fair enough. Drunk people do drunk things. What I don't get is the soiling. As drunk as I've been in my life, and as many times I've been drunk, I never in any places that weren't a toilet. Except for the one time I intentionally in the cat litter box, and then used the scooper to bury it, so it would look like the cat was sick. Drunk me thought it was a funny prank. Sober girlfriend just saw it, and woke me up at 8 a.m. and asked, "Why did you in the cat box?" Sober me remembered doing it, but didn't remember why it was funny. Then she asked me why I put another cat litter box under the bed filled with litter, which I totally don't remember doing. My best guess is that I bought the new litter box to replace the cat box I in, so she didn't have to clean up my. No idea why I filled the new one up with litter, but the end result is the cats refused to use their old box and had used the new box under the bed and thrashed litter around everywhere. I had to move the litter box to its new spot, then pull out the bed and vacuum the mess. That one said drunk who is loud as hell. I had to stop inviting a really good friend to my parties because he did this, culminating in his monopolizing 3 hours of my birthday talking about what his life was. To be fair to him, his life was indeed, but it was a mooder. To clarify something for some very angry people, I have funded and offer to fund mental health care access out of my own pocket for my friends, including that one. Someone putting the big light on. I just threw a huge surprise 40th birthday party for my fiancé. The whole place was lit by Christmas lights on the ceiling and bar, candles on the tables, LED lights all over the place. It looked so nice. His friend, an amateur photographer, kept trying to turn on the lights so that the lighting for his pics was better. I told him no several times, then he got one of the workers to go turn on all of the overhead lights. I was so annoyed. I worked for hours getting it to look exactly how I wanted it to, and he should have just stopped when I said no the first 3 times. A friend of mine announced she had to fart to the entire kitchen while she was intoxicated. She proceeded to liquid diarrhea on herself. It hit the floor. It smelled terrible. Party ended before it really ever began. Guess she had some stomach bug or ibs or something. She ended up getting diapers for any gift-giving occasion after. No clue where she ended up. We lost touch a year or so later. I've had some experts weigh in to tell me nobody with ibs trusts farts, so I'm going to bend the knee to those soldiers battling their own colons and rule out ibs. I'll leave it in though for continuity. This reminds me of this hole in high school. She was the prissy, judgy girl. She also was student council and ran out high school restaurant. Every day they had fresh cookies and burgers. Anyway, she was partying with the Jocks brothers, holes, but everyone who was popular was there. I was not included. This chick drank so much she herself went through her holy jeans, and football guys had to put her in a bath because she was just covered in her own. The week following, after everyone she had ever made fun of went to the school restaurant and asked if their wish in our famous cookies. When we graduated to 007, she disappeared. No social media at all. I think it's Ty. She felt like that after only because I'm a good person, but she made a lot of kids feel really self-conscious and nervous. So, moral of the story is karma is a mofo. Someone took in the sink at a house party of mine once. That was a buzzer for sure. When I was in college, there was a phantom pooper that would show up, drop a deuce at a party, and then vanish into the night. The dorms were arranged around a small central courtyard, and people would hang out and party in the courtyard most nights that the weather was nice. Sometimes not everyone in the dorms appreciated a loud party going on right outside their window, especially when people were studying or trying to sleep. From this chaos came the phantom poopers. Whenever somebody had enough, a turd would suddenly be discovered by the party people in the middle of the courtyard. You always knew when the phantom pooper had struck because you'd hear a wave of "you" and "bro, that's gross," and the occasional retching crash the previous party atmosphere. Eventually, people would disperse and take the party elsewhere, and the phantom pooper's duty was done. Aggressive drunk. One of these came dangerously close to ruining my brother-in-law's bachelor party. Homie was driving, I'm riding shotgun, and I was under the impression that he was the designated driver. Dude pounds 2 beers in the van on the way to the first bar, and when we got there I told him I wasn't drinking and to give me the keys, I would be the designated driver. We get inside the bar and he immediately orders a shot, a pint, and then another shot and a pint. It's been 15 minutes and he starts giving me the look. If you've ever been around an aggressive, angry drunk, you know the look. He keeps on bringing up how I took the keys from him and starts saying he's getting the keys back before we leave and squares his shoulders with me every chance he gets. It was obvious that he wanted to fight me for the insult of taking the keys and was waiting for any excuse. Thankfully, I was able to placate him long enough for all of the booze he pounded way too fast to kick in, and he suddenly got really quiet and was back and forth to the bathroom. When we got to the strip club, we left him in the back seat of the van where he passed out. When someone changes a song before the best part, I've done this and got my dumbass excommunicated rightfully. Once went to a local club where the DJ kept playing only half of a song before playing a new song and only playing half of that song, etc., and also regularly yelling, "Put your hands up," randomly like he thought he was doing an epic set or something. A lot of people would stop dancing every time he put on a new song. It is the only time I ever experienced so many people standing still and looking annoyed while on a dance floor. The club ed and I never went back. The soda was very expensive and lukewarm, and the crappy music was so loud that it damaged my hearing and made me feel dizzy and nauseous, gave me vertigo with both muffled sound and beeping sounds for a week to a week and a half. One time, my brother, 14 at the time, wanted to see how hard it would be to dig out a 1 meter x 1 meter square hole out of the ground, Minecraft inspired. He spent a good amount of time over a weekend digging, until he got bored. It was mostly finished. Fast forward a couple months. I throw a party at my dad's house and we're having a blast. A bonfire out back and everything. A kind-hearted attendee noticed the pit in the ground and made it his duty to guard the pit, for he did not want anyone to get hurt. Someone got hurt. It was him. He fell into the pit, our brave guard. Thankfully, we had a sober person there and they drove him to the hospital, but that instantly ed the vibe at the party. The end result, he broke his leg pretty bad. An overdose. I stopped going to parties when my friends started doing H and bringing meth. We smoked weed laced with meth unknowingly until one of my friends started having seizures. We were living in a state where all of us would have gone to jail just for being that messed up. Before taking into account we were all like 14 to 16-year-olds, so calling an ambulance was not an option in our minds because that also meant cops. Everyone at the party became a house nurse that night, and the people who brought meth dipped out so quick, so we put 2 + 2. together. Luckily, some of the other friends had experience with what to do, and she actually came back like nothing happened an hour later. It wasn't even in a time frame where you could get Narcan to carry around where I lived. I didn't even know that was a thing until I moved to areas that didn't have people faded out in the middle of town. 2008 was a weird year. Shortage of drinks when everything is closed. At my own wedding, which I had procured enough alcohol to a medium-sized African country's population, the event coordinator came up to my wife and I like mid-dinner and was like, "We're going to run out of booze." I was like, if that's true, people would be leaving in ambulances. And it was late and snowy and we were way up on top a mountain, but we were not going to run out of booze, so one person's sober mom made the most epic beerin of all time down the mountain to the liquor store before it closed, and we partied all night. Next morning we're taking inventory after the party and there was a massive amount of alcohol left over, like several grand worth that we got to take home. No clue why the venue planner said we were running out, but we drank on that alcohol surplus for like a year before it ran out. In college, when we wanted to wrap up the party at 2 or a.m., played Dark Side of the Moon. Drops the energy. No one is being asked to leave. People are chill as they head out. No crazy disruptions for the neighbors. Not specifically the vibing that the rest of the posters are sharing, but similar. Sometimes when I get off work and go to a bar and it's a little too hype, I'll play Tin Pan Alley by Stevie Ray Vaughan. It's a 10-minute song that is the chillest blues song to listen to. Everyone just mellows out and I get to have a drink or two in peace before I bounce. Lol. I do have another good viber, but it pisses people off. You can't play songs on modern jukeboxes back to back, but Ricky Martin's Livin' La Vida Loca has an English and Spanish version. Put $20 in and alternate between the English and Spanish one. I've done it a handful of times at bars where the crowd was mostly holes. Sitting at the corner of the bar when Livin' La Vida Loca hits for the third time makes for some entertaining people watching. People start acting confused, then they try to buy songs to skip the Ricky Martin onslaught, only to get relief for 1 or 2 songs. And bam, Livin' La Vida Loca motherers. They start yelling and getting pissed off. When they realize it's gonna go for another 6 times, you kinda see most people slump over and accept their fate. There were 2 times where the bartender just unplugged the jukebox. I started doing this when I heard Tom Mulaney's bit where him and his friend played What's New Cat on repeat at a diner. I don't know why I do this, it is such a move, but every now and then I like to secretly contribute to chaos. 99% of the time though, I'm the nicest dude and don't mind sitting in the corner of the bar and watching other people have fun. A couple getting into a public argument. I went to a Halloween party with my best friend at our mutual friend's house. Best friend brought his live-in baby mama, who he already suspected of cheating on him, and it was at the house of a mutual friend was seeing this absolute land mine of a girl, physically attractive but poisonous in the soul. Mutual friend's cousin slapped his wife in the driveway and got arrested within 15 minutes of our arrival. Good start. Landmine girl got super drunk super fast, impressively fast even, and mutual friend tried to take her inside, which ended with mutual friend's mom, who owned the house and hosted the party, having to drag him upstairs as landmine girl was freaking out and claiming he was beating her. Best friend and I ended up sitting on the patio where we could see everything through the window, and there was no violence except from landmine girl, and best friend told me he just looked at his baby mama's phone and she was definitely cheating on him. Oddly enough, the party went okay after all of us left, as far as I heard. 4 or 5 guys randomly walking in that may or may not know the host. My bud was having a party before years ago. A bunch of people who no one knew showed up at door and asked to come in. I check with my bud, he says he doesn't know them and no one else can come in. Politely tell them no one else can come in. They continue to bang on the door for about an hour until my buddy loses his and walks out and starts swinging on one of them. Turns into a brawl of people trying to get in and people who were invited to the party. The entire thing was bizarre. Who just shows up to a party, gets refused entry, and says this, "I'm not leaving until I get in." Like it wasn't a party of randoms, everyone there knew each other and had been friends for years. Injuries. Watch me dive head first into the shallow end of the pool and break both my hands. Or I'm going to do a keg stand and break my nose. A good friend of mine was 19 and jumped into his above-ground pool from his roof at his house party. We were on the way to the party when we got the call to turn around. Everyone thought he was joking when he come up from underwater upset saying he couldn't feel his legs. They pulled him out and saw he wasn't joking and called 911. He never walked again. He was a high school wrestling star and coached youth wrestling. He was the life of the party and genuinely a nice guy. He was never emotionally the same after that and ended up passing away alone in his home from bacterial meningitis. He had been sick with a cold, but because he was paralyzed, he didn't feel the neck pain and other symptoms that usually sounds the alarm for most people. Great guy, just made a mistake. Anybody whips out a crack, meth pipe, or syringes, I'm out. I was once at a party where I knew nobody except a friend and his girlfriend. The three of us ate some mushrooms, and I ended up having way more than I should have. I felt super uncomfortable, so I went and just chilled out in my car for like 6 hours. At some point, my friend and his girlfriend came and sat with me to make sure I was okay, and they convinced me to come back into the house where the party was. When I went inside, there were people smoking crack and shooting up in the house. It was absolutely wild, and once again, I was super uncomfortable. I had a minor confrontation with a guy who turned out to be my friend's brother and decided to leave. I drove home because I didn't know what else to do. It was a very rural place, so cab or bus were not options. But as I was coming down from the mushrooms and driving through the countryside, the sun was rising, and I just remember feeling like I had been at a crossroads that night. And I really felt like I had picked the right path getting out of that crack house and had been rewarded with a sunrise. It was both a super sketchy and super cool experience. Cops, a group of friends, and I were drinking and having fun while camping at State Park. It was dark and we all were around a campfire, and all of a sudden the cops... Someone must have called them. The shocked look on everyone's faces was epic. They lined us all up and started taking IDs. Some of us were underage, some not 19 to 21 in age. After they had all the cards, they looked at us and told us to wait while they go scan the IDs. A minute after they left, my close friend looks at me and says, "Hey, did they miss you? Did they grab your ID?" I was silently standing there, slowly putting my ID back into my wallet and into my pocket. Looking at my friend, I quietly shook my head no. He started laughing and told me to get the out of there. And I did. They all got community service, Lamau. My close friend said everyone was pissed I got away, but he just laughed it all. That is a good pal. Universe still got me because on my way home my radiator blew out, but I will take that over getting busted. Someone trying to show off a weapon. I was 14 and on vacation with my family at a lake house. The house next door was having a party and we vaguely knew the girls who lived there. Long story, but this was not the first house party. My older brother, 17 at the time, and his buddy were getting drunk and playing party games. My friend and I were just kind of chilling and sipping on a beer. I wasn't going to get drunk because our parents were literally next door and I wasn't dumb enough to be sloppy drunk that close to them. Anyway, my friend and I are just sort of people watching when this guy walks in. He's straight out of a teen movie, tall, athletic, and literally wearing a Letterman jacket. Oh, and he's carrying an axe. For some reason, no one balked at this, and he came in and walked around to see some people holding the axe the whole time. His eyes were all bloodshot, and he looked pretty far gone. This freaked me and my friend out, so we kept an eye on him. He eventually sat down at a table to play a card game and leaned the axe up against the leg of the table. When he was distracted enough by the game and talking to people, I walked by and casually grabbed the axe. The basement we were partying in was half finished, so I just carried it next to my leg and then placed it far behind a stack of sheetrock leaning against some studs. The Letterman guy never even seemed to notice. But an axe? That wasn't even the most stressful thing that happened that night, but it was definitely the most dangerous. The person with a fresh breakup, if it's a chick, she's trying too hard to act single, groping random guys, constantly wooing, screaming lyrics, and swearing. She tries too hard to be the center of attention, knocks all the cups off the beer pong table, and constantly barges into other conversations. And then she crashes into a ball of sadness in the bathroom where random girls have to hold her hair and fix her mascara. If it's a guy, he rolls into the party 6 deep and is being physically dragged into the house. He is surrounded by other guys who are hyping him. up and going around the house explaining to random girls how great he is. Strangers who are absolutely wasted give him advice and repetitive compliments. He ends up doing too many shots in a row and stumbles into the backyard to yak. Using the party for MLM sales opportunities. I was invited to a dinner party and only found out when I got there that it was a pitch for Amway. When I arrived, I was told there would be a short presentation prior to dinner. I said, "No, thank you," and left. I thought I was going to a BBQ once and there would be free food and drinks. My friend drove us and we got stuck at a diet MLM party. No booze, by the way, that may have made it tolerable. Not even a BBQ. 2 types of chips and child-size paper cups to taste test their drinks. A few women seemed genuinely surprised when the host went right into a spill. I think she knew people wouldn't come if they had really known what it was. The crying girl that needs everyone to console her. Get out of the bathroom, there's a line forming. I'm a bartender, and we just recently banned someone like this. She's young, 21, and does not understand bar etiquette whatsoever. When she orders, she'll try to order quads of Jameson, which is illegal. The most you can get in my state is a double shot, and when she only gets served a double, she'll down it and then request a second one immediately after. The girl weighs about 100 pounds, is soaking wet, and gets annoying and demanding when she's drunk, which happens within 15 minutes of entering the bar. She'll wave and throw money at you. Yeah, literally throw. Then when we are done dealing with her, she'll sit at her table and start crying and wait for the most sympathetic guy to console her. After about 5 minutes of sobbing, she'll start making out with him. The Thai thing is, she comes in with a group of people who are also industry, and we are on quite good terms with. She tried to come in last Saturday with that group, and we told the door guy she had been banned. She tried giving him puppy dog eyes and saying, "What? I literally don't do anything wrong." I figured at least one person from that group would go off with her to a different bar, but they actually all stayed and confirmed that they can't stand her. I feel bad because she's so young, but she's quite rapidly developing a very regrettable substance abuse problem. Others in the group have tried to tell her she needs to calm down, pace it, etc. She just doesn't listen. Anyone who is offhandedly berating, insulting, taking digs at their romantic partner in front of everyone. Go to couples therapy already or break up. Quit bleeding your relationship issues out all over the damned place. We can tell you're unhappy. We get it. We don't want to be an unwilling third party to your drama. And if you're acting like Anne, we're going to call you Anne. It doesn't mean we're taking sides in the fight. I remember I was at a party and was talking to a girl I had known for about a little less than a week, and she starts telling me all these embarrassing stories about her boyfriend, like stories about him sending pics and other embarrassing anecdotes. I'm standing there thinking to myself, I wonder if her boyfriend would appreciate her blabbing these stories around to random people she's known for less than a week. Wasn't exactly a super serious relationship issue, but it was funny. The dude who had too much. The dude who had too much. When I was about 15/16, a mate of mine threw a party because his parents were out of town. There was a dude at this party, all but downed a 75 cl bottle of Southern Comfort straight from the bottle. Started falling over everywhere, started throwing darts everywhere, but the dartboard then proceeded to throw up in the sink in the bathroom. Then got in the bath and slipped over, bringing the railing down. Got out and went and passed out in the host's parents' bed. They all antiqued him and wrote the usual on his face, drew S, swastikas, etc. He got up in the morning, had to apologize, and then got picked up by his dad and had to explain it all to him. And that lad was me. Learn from my mistakes, kids. Put Coke or lemonade in your Southern Comfort.